Hello everyone, welcome back to another tutorial series on programming with C++. In our previous video, we spoke about expressions and statements in C++. Now in today's video, we're going to be talking about functions and anything that we need to talk about with respect to functions. In our subsequent videos, we'll be making more use of functions as we proceed. This is an introductory part of functions. Stay tuned and let's jump straight into the IDE. Let's do this.
Okay, so now we are on our ID, but before we start anything, at least you have to know what functions are. So what are functions? So functions functions in C++ are self-contained blocks of code designed to perform a specific task. Now they are fundamental building blocks of C++ program, as I said earlier. Now promoting modularity, reusability, and easier debugging. Yes. So now, why do we use functions? So for modularity, breaking down a large program into smaller, manageable functions makes the code easier to understand, organize, and maintain. So each function focuses on a single responsibility. Now, reusability. Once a function is defined, it can be called multiple times from different parts of the program, avoiding redundant code and saving development time, which is very true. Once again, we'll get there. So readability. Well-named functions make the code more readable and self-documenting, as their names often indicate their purpose. Now, for debugging, when an issue arises, it's easier to pinpoint the program within the specific function. Now, we have components of a function. Now, a typical C++ function consists of the return type, which specifies the type of the value or the type of value the function will send back to the caller. If a function doesn't return any value, its return type is void. And if you are a programmer, you get to use void a lot, but we'll get there. Now, function name, a unique identifier for the function. We also have the parameters, which are optional, a list of variables that the function can accept as input. Now, these are defined with the data types and names, enclosed in parentheses. Yes, then we have the function body. The block of code is enclosed in curly braces. That consists the instruction to perform the function's task. Yes. So now, without wasting much time on the theory aspect, let me take a sample code over here. So now we have our main. So usually when it comes to functions, most functions are declared outside the main function. So just to continue, kindly note that this is also a function. Although this is the main function, it is also a function, as the name says. So the main function also has a lot that goes in here, and it has a return type 0. But we'll come back to the main function. Okay, so in C++, this is a sample code. This is the structure or the format for declaring or for using functions in C++. So we have the return type, then followed by the function name. Then we have the parameter 1 with the type. We have the parameter 1 name, the parameter 2 type. It goes so and so forth. Then everything that you want to execute, or all your main instructions are going to be within these curly braces, which is in your function that you have declared. So the function body, the statement to perform the task, and yeah, you have the return value. So if you know that your return type is void, as I said previously, then just know that you are not going to be returning any value. So let's take a practical example of a code that has to do with a function. So we have declared our main function. Sorry, we have our header files over there already stated. So now let's use integer to add two numbers. Now this is a function. Now we open our curly brackets. Then we have int num1 equals 5. Int num2 equals 10. Then int sum equals num1 plus num2. Yes. Then over here we bring in a return sum. What we want to do is we want to return the sum. So yes, so I want to just make sure I've done the right thing over here. Alright, so what you're looking at on your screen is a simple function I've declared. A function definition is what we have over here on this line of code. This is the function we have defined over here. So what we are going to do here is we want to return an integer over here, the int. We want to return an integer value, and usually integer values don't take any parameters. Yes, then we have integer number 1, we have a second number which is 10. So we want to just sum the number 1 and number 2 up, and we want to return a sum. So return, for example, let's say in Python you would say print. Even in C++ you would use cout, but usually in functions you use the word return. I think we'll get to know why it's being used in that way. So yes, so this simple code over here, and now after we leave the function, we'll come into our main function. And in our main function, we'll int the results. So we are calling for the function we have declared outside the main function to work in the main function. So integer results equals add two numbers. Yes, then we bring this, close that. Now output to the console. The sum is yeah, then results, which is over there, then we'll end line. So the output of this code should be 15. I mean, if you add 5 to 10, you know you're getting 15. So let's run this code and see what we get. As you can see, yes, 15. And now this is a sample code over here. So basically what I'm going to explain what this entire code is. So to add any two numbers, the add two numbers, as you can see here, is a function to return an integer value and takes no arguments. So now inside the main function, as you can see here on our screen, we are calling for the add two numbers, which is going to be stored over here in the results variable. Yes. Now let's take a second example. Let's comment on this. Let's take a second example and see if it will make things clearer for us. Okay, so now let's take another example to see if understanding gets better. So let's define a function here, int add two numbers. And over here we open our curly braces. And let's look at it. Okay, so now let's take another example. So we'll declare or we'll define our function int add this. Open this. Now over here we want to declare something that will take like two integer parameters and return an integer. Yes, so now we open this and now int sum to be equal to a plus b, bring a semicolon, then return sum. Yeah, so there's a sample code over here. Now we'll jump into our main function. In our main function, we are going to be integer. Hold on. Over here, there's a little delay when I type. I don't know if it's because I'm loading the machine with so many software to make this possible, but I hope you are seeing it, well on your side. So in the main function, we call the int num1 main equals 7. Okay, so in the course of me putting out this code, for some reason, I don't know, my machine was kind of messing up when I was typing. I don't know if you can see it on your end, but to cut everything and make things simple, let's go straight and let me explain it in simple terms. So what you're looking at in this particular code is the add function you are seeing on your screen. The add function you are seeing on your screen is going to take a and b. It's going to take two integer parameters a and b. When calling add 7 and the 3, and the a becomes 7 and the b becomes 3 inside the code. So you are literally looking at a over here, which later becomes 7, and we have the b, which becomes 3 in the code. So in essence, this makes the code, or the function reusable for any pair of integers we have in our code. Now let's take a third example and see if I think things will get more and more better as we proceed. Okay, so now we'll use the void for this example. We'll greet and we'll use string for this one. We'll string the name, and for this particular reason, let's include the string. I think the code will still run, but let's include the string library just in case, because we are going to be making use of the string over here. So we are going to string the name, and yeah, then over here we'll see out hello. Nice. So that's something we have here. Now this is our function which we have declared. Now let's put in the main function. So once again, if you are still confused to this point, just know that this is a function we are going to be using in our code. We are going to work with this function. It has been declared somewhere outside the code or outside the main function. So we are going to be calling for the function in our main code to perform a task. So now, as you can see, we are now declaring our main function. Our main function is always supposed to be used. So with the function you are seeing here, it is outside of the code, outside the main function. The main function is where everything is being worked on. And so we are now going to put in the few instructions we want to output to the terminal. So now we want to greet Alice. We are using string, so we have to make use of the double quotes. Very important. If you miss it, then we are missing a lot. Then we also greet, let's greet Rigwell. Yeah. Then of course we return 0, but we already have that there, so I won't bother about that. Yeah. So now let's run this code and see what we get. So as you can see on your screen, we have hello Alice and we have hello Rigwell, and that is a simple way to use function. So I think the third explanation might make it better for you to understand how the functions work. So once again, I want to just brief on it. So with this particular code you are seeing on your screen, we have our function that we have declared outside the main function. But the function we have declared outside the main function is going to be used in the main function to perform a task. So we have our function declaration, everything is there. We are going to use the void type over here. We are just greeting. And now over here, we are calling for the greet function name over here. We are calling for this in the main function. We are calling for this in the main function. And we want it to just greet Alice and Rigwell for us. And that's it. So if you look at how the whole structure works, it's just like replacing the name over here with the name we are going to be telling the console to output for you. There's a whole lot that works under this. There's a whole lot to explain here. But once again, as we move further, we get to see how they are being used very well, and it makes the explanation and understanding much more easier. So don't stress if you don't get it from here. I think you'll get it as we move on. Now we also have okay. So basically the greet function has a void return type because its purpose is to display a message, not to compute a return or a value. Not to compute and return a value. So that is why we are using the void type. We don't need any value to be returned. We are not making any computations here. That's why we are using the void type, as you can see. Now let's take things further. We want to calculate an area using multiple parameters and a return type. So to make things much more difficult for us, in fact, let me take everything off so that we can take it from a fresh start. Now we will not use string with this particular code. That's I'm looking at doing. Yeah. So now we are going to be using a double data type over here. This is a very long name. I don't know if it's accepted, but let me take it that way. I think that's something I'd plan to do, so probably it's going to work. So we'll double the length and we'll double the width. I hope I'm spelling it right. Yeah. And if the length is less than, now this is where we use the logical expressions. So if you remember from our previous video, we are making use of them now. So if the length is less than or equal to or the width is less than or equal to 0, then what? Then we will output to the console error, the length and width. The length and width must be positive. Yeah, we are dealing with positive numbers in the case of what we want to work with. Yeah. Then therefore we return, if not we return 0.0. That determines that. So what you are seeing here, as I read out, is the, hold on, we are getting some errors here. Let's confirm and see where the error is coming from. Okay, so I think we are forgetting to put the 0 here. Alright, so that was where the error was coming from. Yeah. So I'm going to just read it out in the English way. So if the length we are about to compute in the main function is less than or equal to 0, then if it's less than or equal to 0 or the width is less than or equal to 0, then you are going to be outputting to the console error, but the length and width must be positive. But if not, you return 0.0. So whatever you get for whatever you compute in your terminal, I think you're going to be getting your answer over there. But if not, it's going to return 0.0 for invalid input. So this is what you get. But we can also add one more thing. If not, you return the value of the length times the width. We are calculating area, so don't forget. I don't know why I always find it difficult spelling this word. Yeah. Okay. So now we have our function over here. We have our function. So we are going to work with the function we have declared. So now the int main function will come here, and this time we'll double the room length. That's what we are going to do. We are going to measuring or taking measurements per room, so 12.5, and we'll double the room width, and that will be, let's say, 8.0. Then we'll also double the area, and let's take it as, yes, it's going to be calculating the rectangle length area. Then it's going to be dealing with the room length as well as the room width, and then we take this down. Then I will see out the area of the room. Let's do it this way. Then I want to see the best way I can do this. Yes, then area, once again, I don't know if I made mention of this, but C++ is case sensitive, so be careful how you use capitalization in C++. So that's something I have to at least point out. Square unit. Yeah. Then I think you can end line over here. Yeah. Then what about, okay, so I think with this one we have to also add another line of code for invalid inputs. So see out, no, let's double invalid area. Okay, so this was actually kind of confusing when I was typing. I don't know for whatever reason. It's like I was messing up the code in mind. But anyway, so this is our code, and I want to just make some few explanations with respect to the code we are looking at on our screen. So with this particular code we have over here, we have the function to calculate the rectangle. This is a function to calculate a rectangle, and it is over here. This is our function, which is outside the main function. Now, I think I've explained what we have over here in this particular code, and later we would like to return a value. But let's get into the main function now. So in the main function, we are going to be outputting 800 square meters for what we are putting out over here. We'll run the code to see what we get, but I'm just making a brief explanation, brush through. And over here, it is for 0 square meters. So generally, we are calculating the rectangle area, which takes double parameters and returns a double value. Now, it includes a basic validation check, demonstrating how function can encapsulate the logic, including error handling. You understand? So functions are essential for writing clean, efficient, and maintainable C++ code. So they allow you to break down. Now let's take that out. So whatever we are seeing here has something we call, I think as we proceed, we will get to know what error handling is. In every code, you have to also make sure that you provide parts that has to deal with error handling. There are going to be errors in every code you write as a programmer. So you have to have something to handle these errors. And I think that will come in maybe episode 9 or 10 or something. It's bound to come. And we're making use of them a lot. So this is a sample we are seeing here. We are trying to handle the error that can occur for if the length is less than or equal to 0, or width is less than or equal to 0. What it should output, what it should return, all that will come up. So basically in today's video, I have just briefed what functions can do. These are 3 or 4, I think these are 3 examples I was able to put out, or 4 examples here on functions. And these ones need a lot of homework from both you and I as well. Function is a very broad topic, and we are going to be using functions a lot. In the next video, we'll break down more into functions and in particular 1 or 2 things you need to know here and there. Once again, this has been another episode of Programming with C++. This episode was episode 5, and in this episode we started with functions, and we are going to continue probably in the next video with addition to 1 or 2 other features of C++ that we need to talk about. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you learned something new, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.